My name is Donna King, and I'm here with Flame Schroeder, and we are independent ICF credentialed coaches who partner on a series of online webinars. We've been doing a lot of these sessions, especially from the onset of the COVID times too. So these kind of webinars have really been supportive of a number of people in every arena. So we're happy to be here today. As I mentioned, we also partner on a class called Be a Breakthrough Manager. And we have something that we'll tell you about at the end of the session that is on June 2nd. But a little bit about us, we both served as president of the local chapter of the International Coaching Federation, of which I'm still the co-president, and Flame is a past president. And Flame is also one of the 5 globally recognized recipients of the Young Leader Awards in coaching. So I'm so proud to partner with her. And, both of us are committed to building awareness for the power of coaching and the impact it has on transforming people and organizations and society. And we're here today in celebration of International Coaching Week. Happy International Coaching Week. And so what we're here to do today is to tell you a little bit more about what professional coaching is all about and how it can impact you at work and in life. Now, some of you may be very familiar with coaching, and some of you might even be coaches. I think we have some coaches joining us here today also. And some of you may not. So we want to demystify what this coaching thing is all about. So we're going to bust some common myths and generate some conversation around the benefits of coaching in workplace cultures and how you might choose to integrate it in your world if you haven't already. A growing number of organizations recognize the value of building a coaching culture that offers employees at all levels the opportunity to grow their skills, to enhance their value, and to reach their professional goals. And studies show a strong organizational coaching culture is correlated to higher employee engagement and stronger overall performance. Navigating change, uncertainty, and keeping employees engaged and focused really has never been as crucial as it is today in these unprecedented times. And what we want to do today is make this as interactive as possible. So just to get us started, go ahead and type in the chat box answer to this question. If there was anything you wanted to know about professional coaching, what would it be? Okay. And we're going to try to answer all these questions during this next hour. And if time doesn't permit, we will follow up with you afterwards. We're happy to do that. So first, what is coaching? Well, the International Coaching Federation defines coaching as a creative and thought-provoking process that inspires people to maximize personal and professional potential. So what about a coaching culture? According to Forbes Magazine, a coaching culture simply means supporting your employees so they can learn new skills and become a greater asset to the company. A management culture that emphasizes training, regular feedback, and opportunities for growth creates a more engaged and energized workforce. Now, Flame and I like to dig into this a little bit deeper, and our definition goes one step further. We believe that a coaching culture embraces a growth mindset and honors each person's wholeness and humanity to create a more engaged and energized workforce that has the clarity and focus to produce successful outcomes together. So when you think about the metaphor of, let's say, a playing field, a coaching culture is one that is aware that playing the game takes energy. And when the rules of the game seem to change, we all have roles on that playing field and positions to help us reach those collective goals. A coaching culture supports people in achieving successful outcomes by helping them gain better perspective, to build skill set, and empowering them to perform at their best on the field. This includes having candid conversations, constructive conversations, and clearly defining and being accountable to goals. So it's not just about feedback or getting feedback in that loop, but it's about developing the mindset to learn and to work with it, to help employees find meaning in all that they do. And that leads to real, lasting, and sustainable results. In a coaching culture, people are committed to learning and they're invested in the process so they can perform optimally to achieve all that they want. So what I'd like to understand from the people on this call today, because I know you're from different walks of life, is, within your organization, if you work in an organization, how does your workplace integrate professional coaching into your culture? So in the chat box, if you could just type in A, you have internal coaches that are dedicated and trained as coaches. B, managers are trained to coach employees as part of their leadership role. C, external coaches, you hire them to help individuals or teams. Or D, some combination of the above. Or E, none of the above. Go ahead and type in, I see D, some combination of the above. Great.
And Gwen said that they use coaching in difficult conversations. So it kind of has a specific application, or she uses coaching in difficult conversations.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Strong coaching cultures are really a growing trend right now, and they benefit the entire organization. And it's really linked to higher engagement and even better financial performance. A study from the Human Capital Institute and the International Coaching Federation found that 1 in 4 organizations has a strong coaching culture. And that represents about a 50% increase from the findings in a 2016 study, which reported that 17% of organizations had such a culture. So organizations with a strong coaching culture have a larger percentage of highly engaged employees. And additionally, 46% of organizations that reported having a stronger coaching culture said that their revenue growth was above that of their peers, compared to 39% of organizations with a strong coaching culture. Whew, that's a lot there, right? But I think one thing to really think about here too is, what defines a coaching culture? So in this study, it meets at least 5 of these 6 criteria. So these are the indicators. Employees value coaching, senior executives value coaching, the organization has a dedicated line item in their budget for coaching, coaching is available to any employee that wants it, managers, leaders, internal coaches receive specific coach training, and then the last item is all 3 of these things. Internal coaches, external coaches, and managers use coaching skills in their organization. So in the chat box, just let us know how any of these align in your workplace.
Oh, coaching is available to employees for Gwen.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was that, Flame?
It's a good start.
Yeah. So as we move on here, HR offers some sort of support.
Yeah.
Okay.
We see a lot of that.
And sometimes, they're not necessarily informed about, what individuals' teams need either. So what we're going to do right now is to make this a little interesting. We want to share some of these truths and myths about what professional coaching is and what it's not. So in the chat box, what I'm going to ask you to do is answer truth or myth to each one of these statements. Okay? And Flame's going to kick us off.
And myth number one, I'm sure you've all heard this one, that coaching is woo-woo, right? You know what I mean when I say woo-woo? That it's this sort of mystical thing, or that it's, mental health. It's not. But what would you say? Is it a truth or a myth?
Oops.
You can type it in the chat. Sorry, I got to get the hang of this.
Myth, 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 myth.
Because there is this kind of, I'll call it a magic that happens in a coaching session, right? I think Lily and Gwen have both experienced that with us. But it's because coaches are trained and they're professionals who can see the way the human brain is working. Because we're so well trained in how human personality tends to approach things in order for the brain to keep us safe. These things are universal as human beings, right? And so in that sense, coaching can have a very therapeutic effect, and it can seem pretty like, whoa, how did my coach know that? Where did my coach get that from? Because we're using our intuition and the things that are happening in the relationship between us to inform what we ask questions about. But the truth is, especially if you become a coach or use a coach that's aligned with the International Coaching Federation, coaching is self-regulated, meaning we're not licensed. We don't have to have an outside body that is determining whether or not we're doing what we said we would do ethically, but we're also very rigorous. We hold ourselves to very high standards and ethics because we want to continue to be self-regulated. That's the way we like it. We're in integrity, and so are you. And that's the best for everyone. So the job of a coach is to be highly present and to understand emotional intelligence and reflect that back for the client. So Hannah, one of your questions earlier was, do we think that inexperience can be a real limit to becoming a professional coach? It's a great question, because when I started studying coaching, I was 24 years old, and everyone I was studying it with was 60 years old or older. And one of the limiting beliefs I used to say to my coaches all the time was, I'm too young. Nobody will ever listen to me. Does this sound familiar? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So that was in fact my limiting belief. And the truth is, I don't give people advice as a coach. So it really doesn't matter what my experience is. I'm here to evoke the wisdom that's inside of the person in front of me. And that's its own skill set. You see what I'm saying? So if I was a tax accountant, then I would need tax skills and tax training and, a professional presence around that. If I was a doctor, then I would have medical training and anatomy training. And as a coach, I have this other training. It's coach training around the brain and the way it works. And once you have the training, you use it. So no, I don't think it's the ultimate impediment. Do I think that experience gives you more confidence over time? Of course. But coaching is not woo-woo. It's just highly emotionally intelligent. We do recommend that when you're considering hiring a coach, we focus on two things. One, the connection and the fit with the coach. Does the coach have something about them that you really admire, you really connect with, something you'd really like to have for yourself? Great, that's the quality you're looking for, because we always say that you can't coach someone past the point that you yourself have come. So you want a coach that sort of inspires you, right? And we would call that the connection. And also that you feel comfortable, because you want to be able to share some of your worries, your fears, the things that are holding you back, right? And if you don't feel comfortable with the person, you probably won't do that. And then we also suggest that you look at their credibility. Do they hold a credential? Did they graduate from an accredited coach training program? Maybe how long they've been doing it, but more so, do they have a presence that really feels good to you? You might consider meeting with 2 or 3 coaches and interviewing them if you're looking for a coach. And if you're considering becoming a coach, I highly recommend taking on a coach before you become one. That's a critical piece. I always say the best coaches get coaching early and often. Right, Donna? We coach each other all the time.
That's right.
So interview 2 or 3 coaches. And if you have a local chapter of the International Coaching Federation, I'm sure there's one up in BC. I'm sure there's one out on the East, many out on the East Coast. That's a great place to look for coaches, because these are probably high credibility coaches who uphold those standards and ethics. Because the truth is, anyone could hang a shingle and say that they're a coach, like even someone like Tony Robbins. He calls himself a coach. And I think he has a coaching mindset to some extent, but he's also doing something slightly different than what an ICF coach would do, because he has a lot of motivational speaker about him, and, healer, kind of energy healer. And it's not that coaches couldn't do those things, but those things are outside the scope of what professional coaching really is. But professional coaching will produce some sustainable outcomes. That's the thing we're really looking for in coaching, right?
Next statement here. Coaching is giving advice. Is this true or myth? Type it in the type box and the chat box.
Hannah says it's a myth. She was listening.
Well, you are right. It is a myth. Coaching is guiding people to the process of self-discovery. Coaching involves asking really powerful questions that the coachee wouldn't think to ask, so that he or she can access their own answers. It's intended to help people whose perspectives are so ingrained that they can't see their blind spots come into new awareness about themselves. The coach helps the coachee discover his or her own best advice. Rather than giving the advice, a professional coach creates a path by which clients can find their own answers that are already inside of them. We're not qualified to tell a coachee how to do their job. And you know what? We really don't even want to do that. We don't want to do that. A coach helps a coachee to overcome obstacles and to achieve goals by offering them different perspectives and new insights to stimulate additional thinking. A coach can be a sounding board, and we often we're like a mirror that enables new options and ways of doing things. Coaching itself doesn't serve to solve problems of the coachees, but rather to help them become empowered and capable of coming up with their own solutions. The coachee is very much in charge of their own work and accountable to their own goals. So we believe that a coachee is the expert, and the coach's role is to help clarify and address what the coachee wants to achieve and what success looks like. We encourage self-discovery. We elicit coachee-generated solutions and strategies, and we hold the client responsible and accountable while moving them forward in learning and growth.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Because Lily was asking, because one of the things she'd like to get out of this is how to not jump to conclusions, or like, So you might consider, Lily, taking on some of these roles in conversation. How can I help clarify and address what it is we're trying to achieve in this conversation, if it's you and a work partner or whatever? Or address what success looks like, right? And so your role is now an explorer rather than like, oh, that's not going to work, or whatever comes up. You might practice putting the impetus back on the people you're working with. Okay, so what are you going to do that's going to be a solution in this situation? What are some strategies you can bring? Yes, ask questions rather than answer, especially if you notice that you're kind of like irritated, frustrated, not getting what you need, right? Continue, and this is the advanced course, right? I'm not saying this is easy, but continue to be as curious as you can and sort of hold that space of, I want something good to happen here, but I don't yet see what it is. How can we keep working toward that? Does that make sense? Good, 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 good.
Okay. Next.
So what do you think? Does the coachee drive the coaching process, or is it the coach's job? Is this a truth or a myth?
What do you think?
At least one person on the call knows this answer. Yes. Anyone else want to weigh in? Well, Hannah's right. Again, she's going to get a gold star, just like the rest of you. Coaches do not have the answers. We do not set the agenda. The client does, because we want the client to have the outcomes, not the coach. I mean, yes, I want to feel successful as a coach, but I don't want to do that without my client. I want my client to do it, and then it flows out to me. So the client then sets the agenda that they want to address, and then they partner with the coach to craft the commitments and then eventually take the actions that fulfill their commitments. What the coachee puts into coaching is in direct proportion to what they get out of it, right, Gwen?
Correct. Very correct.
Gwen always comes ready to party when we are coaching, and she gets
I love our sessions.
And coaching is a very delicate two-way relationship. And the coach has an important role in that we are keeping the focus on what the client has said. So, you know, it's only natural as you're delving into something deeper, then other stuff comes up. And it's the coach's role to say, okay, now you've brought up this. Do you want to keep going with it? Or do you want to go back to what you said you wanted coaching about, right? We provide feedback on how the process of coaching is going. We provide reflections about what we're observing in the client. And ultimately, we check in for accountability. But coaching is for the coachee. They get to create it, and they're responsible for it. Now, some of you might work in organizations where there's a sponsor or a boss who brought in the coach or is who weighs in on the goals of coaching. We see that all the time. So in that case, the stakeholder, your boss or the vice president that you work with or whatever, might have a set of expectations that drives the agenda, but still the client and the coachee are going to come to agreements and have the final say about what happens in the coaching. And sometimes that means there needs to be several conversations, but it's always between the coachee and the client, because we can't force people to do things or look at problems that they don't see as problems or that they don't want to have a breakthrough about. They need to feel safe and motivated to act. So another part of the coach's presence is to create that sense of safety and certainty for the client. But we believe definitely if there's a stakeholder, there has to be clear alignment up front. That's a critical piece. Without it, we just can't move forward.
Okay. We ready for the next one? Okay. Coaching is just for people who have problems. Myth or truth?
I used to think it was.
Right on.
Good job, ladies. It is a myth.
Well, coaching is for anyone who wants to tap into untapped potential and wants to achieve positive change in business or in their lives. And it's not just for people who have problems. There was a time when a coach was called in typically to fix, derailing issues, the problem child on the team, and, deal with these toxic behaviors. And perhaps there was some stigma attached to that. But today, really, coaching is viewed as a gift, a privilege, and it really demonstrates the organization's commitment to their employees. They see the value in them as human beings and helping them get over to the other side. So yes, coaching does support people that are struggling and they want to learn and grow. and it empowers those high performers to get even better. So coaching works best for anyone motivated to achieve even more, or maybe they do feel stuck in certain areas of performance. But today, even top leaders in Fortune 100 companies, they have one coach or even multiple coaches to serve them. So what we see in leaders is, sometimes they're facing a really difficult situation, or, perhaps they're moving into a new role with greater accountability or responsibility. So, they might, very well hire a coach. But, what we believe is that leaders and managers on every level of an organization can benefit from coaching, as long as they're willing and open to be committed to the process. That's the key right there. It's not just because, their boss says that they need coaching, because, as we know, that can really piss off a disengaged employee already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So coaching needs to be agreed to and owned by the coachee. And personal development is a lifelong journey and process. It takes courage, it takes willingness, and it takes focus. And it pays off. Disengaged employees cost organizations tons of money. And, even, I think what we're seeing today also is that in today's climate of uncertainty and change, employees are really kind of looking inward, and they're seeking more purpose, more connection, and more direction to give their life more meaning. And, I think we're seeing this especially true in the millennials in the workplace right now too. So any questions about that? Okay. Flame, you're on.
Okay. Coaching is like therapy or counseling. Truth or myth?
Well, I know when I was a leader in my organization, I don't know, Lily might be able to relate to this also. I had a couch in my office, and I had a lot of visits to my couch. I felt like a therapist sometimes.
Sometimes I think our employees would like us to be therapists or counselors. But the truth is, of course, that coaching and therapy are different. Coaching focuses on transforming mindsets in order to achieve goals in the present and the future, whereas therapy looks into the past to unwind and heal dysfunction, trauma, things of that nature from the past. And because remember, the coach believes that the coachee is the expert, and a therapist is the expert. They are the professional who can use their psychological models to diagnose and help assess situations in order to promote healing. That is very important. We want people to do that. I go to therapy. I love it. It's important, right? And I have coaches, and that's a different thing. Coaches use usually ontological models rather than psychological. So psychological being the study of the nature of the mind, and ontological is the study of the nature of being. Who am I being into this situation, rather than how do I feel about it, or what are my body sensations about it, which would be more psychological. And as such, ontological models, we do not diagnose our clients. In fact, we have a very different mindset, which is that the client is whole and complete, that they have their own answers, that they're capable of doing hard things and they can work through them one step at a time. And a lot of therapy nowadays is very solution-oriented and action-oriented. So in that way, they can be very similar. But those powerful questions that coaches ask really do evoke answers from within the client and keep the coach out of it. Whereas your therapist is probably much more a part of the progress that's being made. Now, coaches are also trained to understand when their lane is overrun and someone needs to be referred out to therapy. We know at least 7 signs and symptoms, and we're constantly talking about this as a profession because we want to stay in our lane and we want to give therapy its due as well. So we're constantly assessing for that, like, oh, is this client coachable or not? Because if they're not coachable, that may actually be a sign that there is some dysfunction or trauma that needs support from a professional beyond what we can do. But sometimes those two things can run a parallel path. You can do coaching and therapy at the same time, even really around the same issues, but they produce different results. So in very low terms, or very simple terms, I should say, we say that therapy takes people from low functioning to functioning because you're healing. And coaching takes people from functioning to high functioning because you're already a healthy, capable person. You just want to, like we call it, turning the dial. So you just want to turn the dial so that you're even more clear and effective. Make sense?
Okay. Okay. So our next one is, it's safe to open up and talk frankly to a coach in a workplace environment. Is this truth or myth? What do you think? Truth. Very good. Very good. Just by the nature of a coaching relationship, it's characterized by trust, respect, and a freedom of expression. And, we know that trust implies sincerity, authenticity, and it requires confidentiality on the part of the coach. And in order to have all of these things, the coachee needs to feel comfortable with the coach and believe that the coach can help them achieve their goals and have their best interests in mind at all times. So the best coaches are those who really hold space for the coachee to feel comfortable so they can say anything. And you know what? They feel all is well, right? So, I just want to kind of reiterate that confidentiality is one of the hallmarks of being an ICF credentialed coach.
Well, like right now, I'm coaching someone who has a sponsor in his organization. And frankly, some of what he needs coaching about is her. She stresses him out. So how could we even have that relationship if he wasn't completely clear that I'm not then taking those stories back to her, right? So that was very clear from the beginning. I had a conversation with the boss and said, I'm not going to tell you what we talk about in coaching. You're good with that, right? You can ask your employee what he's bringing up in coaching and he will tell you what he's comfortable with. But as the coach, what happens in coaching stays in coaching.
Exactly. So it's really important to have those agreements and expectations up front between the boss, the coaching sponsor that we talked about before, and just that relationship just is so tender and needs to be handled so carefully.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it's just kind of important to just reiterate that the coachee is responsible for their own, if they have a boss in the situation, they can follow up with their boss about it. Would they choose to tell the boss about the progress would be important, unless the agreement up front is to have share the outcomes together. Or in some organizations, they actually have before surveys and after surveys too, to see what the changes are. And they might have a specific framework for measures.
Yeah, I think the only exception to this rule, just like with therapists or doctors, if the court were to order that we offer up our notes, or if we believe that you're going to be a danger to yourself or someone else, then we would be behooved to act. But otherwise, confidentiality is the key.
Okay, next point.
So what do you guys think? Should you always hire a coach with industry experience or expertise? I get this question a lot. And in fact, I've not been hired because I didn't have industry expertise, even though the potential client liked me the best out of the options, which I thought was interesting.
Well, our crew here says myth.
Well, I agree. I am totally biased, but I agree. Because the coach's value lies in their capacity to empower the coachee to access their own knowledge and experience and apply it to their current situation and their future goals. So I don't pretend to be an expert in my clients' businesses. I don't pretend to be an expert in their lives. They are. What sets a coach apart from a mentor, for example? Yes, different job roles, absolutely. A coach and a mentor is that the mentor knows all the stuff, right? And they can teach you how they did it successfully. And that can be useful sometimes to have a sage on the stage that you turn to and they impart all the wisdom. But a coach is more the guide on the side, right? It's a partnership where we're working together so that you are the one feeling like the sage on the stage. You're the one feeling confident and knowing how to proceed. And then again, you could have a consultant, which would be even different than a mentor, who got invited into a situation to assess it, discover what they believe is wrong based again on their expertise, and then write up a plan for how to fix it and help implement that plan. That would be even different. Again, we believe all of these roles can be valuable to an organization or a relationship. Coaching is just one of them. So having a similar industry background doesn't guarantee that the coach will be effective. It's more important to have a coach who's skilled in evoking the client and helping them realize what skills the client needs to acquire in order to really perform effectively in their role. The most helpful coach is one who listens and helps clients reflect on their choices, their behaviors, their interpretations, their judgments, right? A lot of these things operate unconsciously, and until we are conscious of them, they sort of run us, not always to the best effect. So again, Lily, to your question about how to not jump to conclusions or be impatient, help people reflect on their choices, their behaviors, their interpretations, and their judgments, however you can do that. Oh, look at you. You're so on it. She's got the coach's role right there. So it could be that if you have somebody from your industry, that they actually come with a bunch of limiting ideas about how it's going to work, and that actually doesn't contribute to the coaching role. Because it prevents creativity and innovation, and it's more like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. And either way, we still believe that connection and credibility are the two most important factors in choosing a coach. Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah. Okay, the next one is coaching results are immediate. Is this a truth or is this a myth? I'm hearing myth here. Well, this is kind of a trick question. Sometimes is the answer. You know, while coaching is not intended to be a quick fix, many coaches experience tangible results, or coachees, I should say, experience results after just one or two sessions. And coaching might be more immediate for some because it comes from the inside. You know, we're all unique human beings. We have different varying levels of readiness and different areas to address. So, you know, we work at our own pace. And, you know, although human beings are tend to change slowly in normal conditions, coaching for engaged and motivated people who really want to seize that opportunity, gosh, it can lead to some remarkable results and rapid changes in thinking and behavior in a short amount of time. So, you know, what Flame and I often say is, you know, if you've been seeing a coach and after a few sessions, you don't see a change, you're not feeling momentum building, perhaps you need another coach or maybe another resource. But the point is that you should really be feeling some momentum after a handful of sessions. So our answer is sometimes. Okay, our last myth or truth is
coaching is expensive. I was answering questions on Reddit the other day, and this one came up. So I know this one is very much there. What do you guys think? Is coaching expensive?
We're hearing myth and truth, and sometimes.
Yeah, right. And in our way, what we're saying is that coaching does seem really expensive if you don't understand the value or you're not connected with the value.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know it's been studied that coaching as an investment pays off exponentially. According to a Gallup study that was just done in May of 2020, 1 out of 4 employees are disengaged in their organizations, and 13% of employees are actively disengaged, and 67% are just like not engaged. In dollars, that translates to 7 trillion, that's with a T, dollars in lost productivity. If coaching could get even some of that returned back into engaged employees who are coming up with solutions and feeling empowered, wow, that would make a tremendous dent in that number. So companies that have used professional coaching for business reasons have seen a median return on their investment of 7 times. So if they invested $100, they get $700 back, at least. I mean, that's what we can measure, right? And I'm sure there's untold emotional relief and, continued benefits in the relationships there too. But that study was according to PricewaterhouseCoopers in conjunction with the ICF. I think that was 2009. Yeah, 2009 it says. And according to this study, coaching is a visible activity appearing in the budgets of many organizations. And overall, 1 in 4 organizations have a dedicated line item for coaching in their training budget. The organizations that participated in this study allocated an average of 21% of their overall training budget for their coaching initiative. So it's easy to see how organizations with a coaching culture can save money in what is learned through coaching. And many organizations put measures in place to track the ROI of learning and development initiatives, including coaching, training, and mentoring. And sometimes they'll do those separately. And we know that training is a very valuable resource. However, many times you get to a training course, you learn all about it, you take away the binder, and then the binder sits on a shelf, right? And you never integrate it into your actual daily life. And when you combine training with coaching, we see that the results become more sustainable and more integrated. Research shows that training increases the productivity by 22%. So that's pretty good, a quarter. But when combined with coaching, it increases the productivity by 88%. So 4 times as much when you combine training and coaching. So coaching, training, consulting, mentoring, again, they're all really valuable resources, and they can all work in concert within an organization as long as there is a clear understanding of the roles and the alignment and the intended goals of the initiatives. So is it expensive? Yes, but it does work and it has a real payoff.
Okay. So wow, that was 9 myths, and hopefully you all learned a lot. And maybe we busted some of the things you thought about coaching, or maybe you already knew exactly what it was all about. So let's just talk a little bit about, given what we've shared with you about what coaching is and what coaching is not, what are some signs or triggers that might call for coaching as a solution in your organization or even personally? And write that into the chat box. We want to hear from you.
You're welcome, Bridget. We're glad you're here.
People asking for it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think those people would be experiencing, Gwen, that would have them ask for it?
Maybe they're wanting to look into different job roles, or maybe they have a situation that they just kind of want coaching through to better themselves.
Mhm.
Yep. They want to feel more confident and effective. Yep.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts? When you have done your best to grow, but you know within you, you can get past, and a guidance from a coach is needed. So inside, you know, you have more to give, you have more potential. My company actually directs us to videos that shows examples of conflicts and solutions. Okay. However, I think a real person is much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah.
more personalized.
And participating in it, that experiential aspect of it is pretty powerful too.
Well, and Donna and I are big believers that, let's say there's a conflict situation and you know you need to do something. If you go into it with the same mindset that got you upset or made it a conflict in the first place, and you're trying to fix it from that same mindset, you're going to get the same icky result, right? It's not going to be a powerful result. Coaching helps you find a new mindset with which to approach the situation that can then unlock the situation for actual success. So
we see if when people come to coaching, or when organizations hire us, or people talk about the struggles that they're having. Typically, we see things around change is happening, or there's some sort of transition or disruption going on. COVID thing, working remotely, has been huge. And, companies, organizations, teams have had to pivot their businesses in different directions. That can be challenging. There's also, when you have very aggressive goals, perhaps there's a new leadership, or new staff, new employees, and you're kind of building new relationships. I think this is very common, lack of alignment. People going off in different directions, right? Different agendas competing, different priorities competing. Sometimes we see negative behaviors or some mindset impediments. We were talking about limiting beliefs and excuses earlier. Perhaps there's a new skill set needed. Sometimes you see negative patterns, oh gosh, frustration setting in, trust issues, cynicism, negative patterns that just keep repeating, unmet expectations, and people start leaving the organization, jumping ship, right? That happens often. There's an issue behind it, and simply just roller coaster results. So,
you hit it and then you don't, and then you hit it and then you don't. Yeah. There's something going on there.
Okay, so Flame, you want to take it home here?
Yeah, so we want to get you out of here right on time. We know you have the rest of your evening that you want to get back to, but given what you know now, what are you starting to see as the potential benefits and the impact of having a coaching culture? Is there something that you would love to be a stand for in your organization or in your life that coaching could produce results around? Because in our perspective, coaching is about finding clarity, which then produces alignment. And then we can focus on the things that we're aligned to. And once we're focused, it produces a sense of ease, and then growth happens naturally. So if these are things that your teams would want, that your organizations would want, we would love to support you in getting some coaching into those places to make that happen.
And where you are right now, what you've learned here, what I'd love for you to do is we want to kind of hear and capture your readiness around coaching. And, if you could type in some thoughts about how you might be able to integrate it into your workplace culture on any level, we'd love to hear that. We'd love to see how, you might either make some recommendations or, impact it yourself. Send an email to my, I will forward to your, okay, Lily, thank you. So, some of our recommendations might be, experience the power of coaching yourself if you haven't already. Until you experience it, it's kind of hard to impact or influence. So we always say, make it happen yourself, experience the power of coaching yourself. And, gosh, I know I was, I didn't even, in fact, when Lily got on early to this conversation, we were talking about coaching. And when I first started out in the business, I had no idea what this coaching thing was all about. I was typical baby boomer, like, oh, we can figure this out, oh, I'll just hit the ground running, do what you need to do to get the job done. If I had a coach in my life, if I had multiple coaches in my life, things would be a lot different. However, coaching did transform my life personally and professionally. And obviously, I'm here today, 12 years later, a coach myself, partnering with the famous Flame Schroeder. And, and I feel we've impacted people's lives.
Yeah.
So that's my little story. So be an advocate, be an influencer, gain buy-in, from your teams, from leadership. It's always best to gain that buy-in from the top. Having leadership be able to really model a coaching culture behaviors, share, collect data, share information with them, and, develop a roadmap, a plan, and start somewhere.
Yeah, we believe so strongly that coaching is not going anywhere. This is not a fad. This is not a flash in the pan. It works, and it's going to continue to gain momentum. Employees, particularly in the younger generations, are growing more and more vocal about how they want to be satisfied with their work. They want to be satisfied in their lives, and they're really not going to stand for anything less. And we know that coaching and professional development in general is a tremendous part of that. So we know that people want to be armed with the best skill sets and the best mindsets, and they want to experience that clarity and focus in their lives. And we believe that coaching is one of the best ways to do that. For those who are considering being an advocate for coaching, anticipate an exciting journey. It's filled with ups and downs. You never know what you're going to find in that mind of yours. And if you're someone who's already helping to implement coaching in your organization, we're here to support you. Obviously, Donna and I do one-on-one coaching. I'm a mentor coach. We do team coaching. Donna's especially skilled at this. If you need something as simple as a lunch and learn, if there's a topic that you know that some team or part of your team needs to hear about, we'd love to partner with you and create something that's specifically for you. And we can also customize longer workshops as well, up to a day long or even longer. And then, like Donna mentioned at the beginning, we are having a class called Be a Breakthrough Manager on June 2nd. It's 4 hours. Yes, Lily, we can definitely talk about doing a work webinar. Let's powwow about that. Be a Breakthrough Manager is on June 2nd. It's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central. So it's 4 hours, and it's to teach people who manage coaching skills. But you don't really have to be a manager. It could be for anyone. But the point is, we're going to teach you 3 powerful coaching skills. and you'd be able to take them home right away or to work right away and start implementing them to become the kind of person who other people have breakthroughs around. A coach, in other words. It has to do a lot with the way that you're listening and the way that you're seeing the person in front of you. And we will pull back the curtain and teach you those skills so that you can enjoy them, because that thinking is probably what brought you here today. And if you happen to bring 5 or more people, like if you're in an organization and you could get a little cohort of your coworkers or your friends, then we'll give you all 20% off to that. So if you have any questions, we're here for you. And otherwise, that's professional coaching in a nutshell.